focus on verse 2 for the moment. In the Hebrew, verse 2 says, Zot tiye Torat ha-Metzora beyom ha-Torato behuva el ha-Kohen. There should be some words that you pick out, things that you have heard before. Well, there's one particular word that we're really going to focus on tonight, and it became a rabbit trail almost. I went off on this tangent, and I got way over here, and I didn't know how to get back. But then Yahweh began to connect the pieces. He began to connect the dots and paint the picture. The word that we're going to focus on tonight is the word law. It says, this shall be the law of the leper. The word law in Hebrew is Strong's number 8451. It's the word Torah. It means law, direction, or instruction. It's a word that we should all be familiar with. We keep the Torah. We honor the Torah. We know the Torah is the written word of Yahweh. We know it's our ketubah. It's our wedding covenant. We've looked at this word countless times. We think we know what the Torah is. But he began to show me things this week as I studied that I'd never seen before concerning his Torah. How powerful, how living, and how viable this Torah really is. It comes from the root, number 3384, yarah, which means to throw, shoot, cast, to pour. It can also mean to sprinkle or to water. And when I saw this, I was instantly reminded here, when the leper is being cleansed, he is sprinkled. And here, this is already hinted at in this word Torah. But not only is the leper sprinkled, but as you heard last night, the red heifer sacrifice is sprinkled as well. And it's interesting that there are so many connections between the cleansing of the leper and the red heifer sacrifice. Both require scarlet, cedar, hyssop, living water, and a sprinkling upon the people. The red heifer sacrifice would cleanse those that had come in contact with the dead body. In the case of the leper, he was the dead body. He was referred to as the living dead. The case of leprosy was a horrible disease that was feared among ancient times. And so as we look at this, there's no wonder that there's a connection between these two ceremonies because they have the same purpose. They're cleansing one from the dead. This word yarah can also mean to show or to teach. And if you look at the word Torah, it's spelled Tav, Vav, Resh, Hey. When you break down a word, you know that words have prefixes, they have suffixes, they have roots. And normally looking at this word Torah, it has a Tav. The Tav is a prefix. It has a Hey. The Hey is a suffix. These would normally be the paths that we would take in breaking down this word. But this week, as I began to look at the word Torah, instead he led me to look at the last two letters together, the Resh and the Hey. And that's where it all began. And before we delve into this, I have a question. How many of you like science? Because tonight you're going to get a science lesson. The two-letter root of Torah and its root yarah is the Resh Hey in the Hebrew. According to Klein's Etymological Dictionary, this is the Hebrew rendering or the Hebrew spelling of the tone of re on the musical scale, do, re, mi, on the solfeggio. And as we begin to look at this, you're going to be given insight into the Torah by looking at this two-letter root hidden here on the end, things that we have never seen before. If you begin to study this, it's only been in recent times that math and science are beginning to understand the importance of musical notes. They're beginning to understand frequencies and the effect that they have upon the world. This is something that we haven't really understood till now. This is a knowledge that's being restored. And yet, this is a concept that Yahweh has hidden within his Torah, that he has hidden within the Hebrew language. After all, he created this world. He created everything that we see and know, and all the laws that govern this earthly world were placed there by him. So as we begin, science discovers all these things, it's already there in the Hebrew language, hidden, waiting to be revealed. And here at Manna, we understand that every single Hebrew letter has a picture, has a definition, and it has a number assigned to it. But every Hebrew letter also has a musical note as well. And because it has a musical note assigned to it, it has a frequency. So here in this word Torah, upon the end of the word Torah, you have this musical note, this tone right here upon the end, and therefore it has a frequency that comes along with it. And we understand that he spoke the world into existence. We've read Genesis 1:1. We've dissected it before. We've looked at it within the Hebrew language, and we know that he spoke everything that we see into creation by way of the Hebrew language. And as we begin to look at this, we understand that the Hebrew language has these frequencies assigned to it. He created the language to be able to create. He made this language with this power. He built it in. It came from him. And this Hebrew language, as he began to speak in Genesis, it created matter. It created everything we see and know. And science now is able to prove the creative power of the Hebrew language. And now we can begin to see how awesome Yahweh truly is. With this vital role that these frequencies and the Hebrew language played within creation, it's no coincidence then that the word Torah has one of these notes hidden on the end, because the Torah sums up who he is. The Torah tells you everything about him. So as we begin to look at this note tonight, it teaches you the capability, it teaches you the power that he places within the Torah and within his Hebrew language. And it's something that he wants you to understand because you need it unlocked in the days ahead. You need to be able to walk in the power that is his Torah, like the disciples did and like Yeshua did, to be able to walk in the authority and the power, fully understanding what he has given you. This tone of ray vibrates at a frequency of 417 hertz. And each frequency, science has proven, does a specific job. It has a different effect on its environment and everything around it. Well, this particular frequency of 417, it said, is for facilitating change through resonance. This is a statement that went right over my head when I first read it. So if it went over yours, don't worry, you're in good company. This is actually a statement from the science of physics. I just so happened to take a lot of science, but I never took physics. And physics is not that easy. But I found a website that helped to explain this. And when you take physics and you plug in the Hebrew language, it's definitely not easy. This particular source, called the physics of resonance, this is just a brief introduction for those that are unfamiliar with what resonance is, so that you can understand what he's placed within his Torah. It says, resonance is a common thread which runs through almost every branch of physics, and yet a lot of people have never studied it. Without resonance, we wouldn't have radio, television, music, or swings on playgrounds, not to mention cool gizmos like Tesla coils. Of course, resonance also has its dark side. It occasionally causes a bridge to collapse, a helicopter to fly apart, or other inconveniences. Taken to an extreme, resonance causes things to break catastrophically. For example, when an opera singer with a very loud voice hits the right frequency, she can cause a champagne glass to resonate and break. Unlike black holes, time travel, and quantum mechanics, resonance is commonplace and easy to observe, yet it is one of the most striking and unexpected phenomenon in all of physics. Basically, it'll cause an object to oscillate. It will cause it to move. And as I was looking at this is on the end of the word Torah. Torah should cause you to move. It should cause you to vibrate, to oscillate. And in John chapter 1, verse 1, we are told, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yah, and the Word was Yah. And if you go on in verse 3, it tells you that all things were created by this Word, by the Torah, and the Torah made flesh. So we understand that this Torah is creative in nature. It is able to create things. And if you go into Genesis 1, verse 1, it describes this creation by the word of Yahweh with the word Reshith. It's actually the name of the book of Genesis, Bereshit. The word Reshith is Strong's number 7225, and it comes from the root Rosh, which means head or beginning, but it also means to shake. Bereshit literally means in the shaking. And no wonder it was created by the Torah with this particular frequency, which would cause creation to shake. As he began to speak this forth, everything began to move. Do you realize when Yahweh arrives on the scene, things begin to change, things begin to move? If you fast forward, when Yahweh is at Mount Sinai and Israel is camped there and he gives them his Torah, once again this same power capable in his Torah that he gives to Israel, the sages teach that the trees and the rocks were shattered as his voice began to speak and the shofar blew. Once again, going hand in hand with this idea, when he spoke forth his Torah, things began to shatter, things began to break, and things began to move. And if you fast forward even more, when the living Torah returns, we're told that the Mount of Olives will split open. Why? Because the living Torah is on the scene. The earth will begin to move. We're told that as the day approaches, we know that the earth begins to groan. And we can actually see that now in the days that we live. How many earthquakes have happened? How many disasters and catastrophes are going on right now as the Torah begins to approach? It's all because the living Torah, the Messiah, is on his way. And the earth is beginning to oscillate. It's beginning to resonate. It's beginning to vibrate because it knows what's happening. It knows what's coming, and it's preparing for the King. In Psalm chapter 29, verse 5, it says, "The voice of Yahweh breaketh the cedars." Now that's interesting because here we're talking about the voice of Yahweh and the power that is hidden within his voice, in his Torah, and in his word. And here, once again, it shares with you this same concept, that it has the power to break the cedars. And as I was looking at this, cedar wood is used in this process of the cleansing of the leper. This is not a coincidence as we look at this. And I want you to keep that at the back of your mind because we're going to come back to Psalms 29, verse 5. And we're going to look at that verse a little bit later, and you're going to see how it fits in quite nicely. So as we begin to look at this word Torah, and we understand that we're to break apart this Torah, we're to look at it, we're to study it, we're to dig in the Torah, it should cause you to move. It should cause a shaking within you. It should cause a threshing in your life. If you have heard the Torah and studied the Torah and you have not changed, if you are stagnant, then there's a disconnect, and it's not the Torah. It's not Yahweh. We need to check our ears. We need to check the ground that it's been planted in because it should cause change when it's planted. The word Torah, as we said earlier, it has the tav prefix. That tav prefix means she will. In other words, the word Torah means she will vibrate, she will oscillate, she will be shaken. He's talking about the bride. She will be shaken. And in the end days, in the great shaking, she is going to do just that. Now, going back to the root of this word Torah, the word Yerah, it has the yod prefix upon it. The yod prefix in Hebrew means he will. And then you look at that two-letter root, that resh, hey, which is this musical tone and this frequency, which causes a change and shaking. This is what he tells you. Because remember, this is the law of the leper. This is the Torah of the leper, is the statement that's made in this Torah portion. He tells you that by his Torah, he will change you and shake you from your leprous nidah state. And here is why there will be no pre-tribulation rapture. It is only by the shaking that the spots come out. It is only by the shaking that you're no longer a leper, but you're cleansed. It is only by the shaking that you're no longer nidah, but instead you are pure. It's no coincidence that this tone, re, leads directly into the tone of me on this scale. And David had spoken on this particular tone before. It has a frequency of 528 hertz, which is used to repair DNA. So even in the scale, you see a progression. You see one action leading to another. And here in the Hebrew language, here in this particular Torah portion, the same thing is taking place. Remember that this root word, yarah, means to sprinkle or to water. Well, what would they sprinkle the people with? They would sprinkle them with the water during this cleansing process. The word water in Hebrew is ma'im, and it contains the two-letter root of the tone me. So even here, you see this progression from the tone of re to the tone of me. First, he gives you his Torah to change you and to shake you, and then he washes you with the water of his word. The water of his Torah, you're sprinkled. And just like the lepers were sprinkled and cleansed, so are you. And your DNA is changed and repaired in the process. You don't leave the same as you came in. You're no longer leprous. You're no longer nidah. You're no longer compromised. So if you have enjoyed this teaching, please tune in to the other side, and we will finish, and you will get the rest of the story. Thank you for listening. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for tuning back in to us here at Man from Heaven Ministries. My name is Brittany Scott, and we've been looking at this week's Torah portion called Metzora, meaning leper. But we've taken it